Olise, lovely. Mbappe! The superstar shines! Oh, lovely feet. Mbappé's hit! Fabulous hit!
Nobody told you this was going to be easy, and nobody warned you just how close it came to being a disaster. June 16th, 2026, MetLife Stadium, East Rutherford, New Jersey. 80,500 fans packed under the American sun. The noise, the color, the heat rising off the grass like something was about to combust. France against Senegal, Les Blues against the Lions of Teranga. Somewhere in the middle of it all, wearing the number 10, jaw set, eyes cold, completely unreadable, Kylian Mbappé, 27 years old, 12 World Cup goals on his record, and Olivier Giroud's all-time France scoring record, sitting just 2 strikes away. This was the match. This was the moment. Except, nobody knew that before a single ball had been kicked, France were already in a crisis. Because Ousmane Dembélé, Mbappe's most dangerous creative partner, the PSG magician who makes defenders look foolish, had walked into the Champions League final just 2 weeks earlier with a muscle problem nobody was talking about publicly. He scored, he fought, he gave everything he had. And then, in the final minutes of that final, he went down clutching his leg. He signaled to the bench, he came off. The next 72 hours inside the French camp were some of the most anxious hours this squad had experienced in years. Initial fears pointed to a muscular tear, possibly career-threatening for his World Cup. Scans were done, doctors were called, and then relief. Cramps, severe, brutal, exhausting cramps, but nothing structural. He would be available, he would start. France exhaled. But the question that nobody could answer was this: was Dembélé truly fit enough? Could he survive 90 minutes against a Senegalese side that was fast, physical, and carrying absolutely nothing to lose? The lion that almost struck first. Senegal arrived at MetLife Stadium with history in their chest and hunger in their eyes. Their coach Papi Sia, the same man who sat on the bench as an unused substitute when Senegal stunned France in the 2002 World Cup, was now standing in the technical area with the Lions. Think about that for a second. The man who watched France fall 24 years ago was now trying to make it happen again. They had Kalidou Koulibaly at the back, commanding, experienced, unshakable. They had Nicolas Jackson up front, raw, explosive, a man who had been on loan at Bayern Munich, sharpening everything about his game. And they had Sadio Mane, 34 years old, wearing the captain's armband, back at a World Cup after missing Qatar 2022 completely through injury. 4 years of waiting, 4 years of watching his country compete without him. He did not come to New Jersey to be quiet, and for 45 minutes, Senegal were the better team. France came out flat, dead flat. Dembélé looked like a man running on fumes. Their front four barely touched the ball in dangerous areas, and then came the moment that nearly broke this script completely open. 25th minute, Nicolas Jackson collected a loose ball inside the French penalty area, turned with that explosive first step of his, and hit the post. The ball rattled the woodwork and bounced clear. The stadium froze. The French bench rose to their feet in panic. Jackson stood there, hands on his head, staring at the post. If that ball travels 6 inches to the left, this entire story is different. Everything that followed, every record, every goal, every moment of history hinges on 6 inches of post. By halftime, France's expected goals figure was 0.02. In 45 minutes of World Cup football, the most talented attacking squad on the planet had created almost nothing. Senegal had 3 genuine chances. France had 1 blocked shot. When the halftime whistle blew, Deschamps walked down the tunnel with the look of a man who was not going to be polite about what he had just seen. He later admitted it publicly. He was frank with his players, absolutely frank. And somewhere in that dressing room, Kylian Mbappé was listening and deciding. The moment everything changed, the second half started, and France were a completely different team. Deschamps had moved Olise into a more central role. He had shifted Dembélé wider. The shape had changed. The urgency had changed, and the match had completely changed. 66th minute, Michael Olise received the ball in a central area, looked up for 1 single second, and then played the kind of pass that most footballers attempt in training and never pull off in a match. It threaded through 4 Senegalese defenders, split the back line apart, and found Mbappe arriving at full speed onto the ball with perfect timing. He did not hesitate. He did not take a touch. He simply slid the ball past Edouard Mendy with the calmest, most precise finish you will ever see from a man carrying the weight of an entire nation's history. The net moved, the stadium erupted, and then Mbappe stopped. He turned to the French fans packed behind the goal. He raised both hands to his lips. He moved his fingers like a musician. He played an imaginary flute right there on the biggest stage in world football. The entire internet stopped scrolling. What was this? Where did this come from? Here is the story behind the flute. Weeks before the tournament, British TV host James Corden sat down with Mbappe and pulled out an actual flute in the middle of the interview, challenged Mbappe to show off his skills. Then Corden looked at him and said, "Score your first goal at this World Cup against Senegal and celebrate by playing the flute." Mbappe looked straight into the camera. He smiled. He said yes, a promise. And 66 minutes into France's opening World Cup match, in front of 80,000 people, Kylian Mbappe kept his word. That celebration was the #1 trending topic on every social platform on Earth before the goal had even been shown in replay. Barcola, chaos, and the hammer. France continued to press, and on 82 minutes, Adrien Rabiot slid a perfectly weighted ball through to substitute Bradley Barcola, 23 years old, his first World Cup appearance, 131 seconds after coming on, who chipped the ball over Mendy with the composure of a man who had done this 1,000 times. 2-N. Barcola ran toward the corner flag like a man who could not believe what was happening to him. He was right to feel that way. And then Senegal, because the Lions were not done. Deep in stoppage time, 18-year-old Ibrahim Mbaye, a substitute barely known outside West Africa, playing in just his second senior international, received the ball 30 yards from goal, dropped a shoulder past Theo Hernandez as though he was not even there, and curled a shot into Mike Maignan net, 2-1. The Senegalese fans in the stadium lost their minds. The scoreboard said stoppage time. The clock was ticking down. Could it happen again? Could Senegal do what they did in 2002, shock France, stun the world? The answer came almost immediately, because Kylian Mbappé was still on the pitch. He collected the ball 25 yards from goal. The Senegalese defense had not reset. They had one eye on the clock. And in that single fraction of a second, that tiny gap between a defender thinking about time and a striker thinking about goal, Mbappe opened his body and struck a shot that bent, dipped, and buried itself into the top left corner of the net with a ferocity that made the entire stadium go completely silent for half a second before the noise arrived like a wave. 3-1, game over, history made. The record that will never be forgotten. The moment that ball hit the net, every graphic on every broadcast around the world updated at the same time. Kylian Mbappé, 58 international goals for France, more than Olivier Giroud, more than Just Fontaine, more than Thierry Henry, more than Michel Platini, more than every single man who has ever worn the blue shirt of France in the entire history of the national team. At 27 years old, Kylian Mbappé became France's greatest goal scorer of all time, and his World Cup goal tally moved to 14, one behind the legendary Ronaldo Nazario, two behind Miroslav Klose's all-time record of 16, a record that has stood since 2014. France have more games to play, Iraq are next, then Erling Haaland's Norway. The mathematics of what is about to happen at this tournament are almost too big to say out loud. What Wayne Rooney said and why it matters. In the days after this match, Wayne Rooney sat on a BBC podcast and said something that split opinion across the entire football world. He said people are not appreciating Kylian Mbappé enough. Not just right now. but in terms of where this man truly stands in the history of the game. And then Rooney said this: Mbappe is the closest thing modern football has ever produced to Ronaldo Nazario, R9, the Brazilian, the phenomenon. The man who played in the number 9 at Real Madrid and redefined what a center forward could be. Rooney said it plainly: Mbappe is technical. He can go past defenders, he can run in behind, he can score every type of goal, and people simply do not realize how exceptional he really is. He said that one day we will look back on this era and ask ourselves why we were not watching more closely. And here is the thing: Ronaldo Nazario himself said something very similar. After the 2022 World Cup final, R9 said that Mbappe should have won the Golden Ball over Messi. He called him almost unstoppable. He said Mbappe reminded him of himself. When R9 says another forward reminds him of R9, you do not argue, you just watch. The journey that brought him here, 2018. A 19-year-old from Bondy, a suburb of Paris where football is everything and resources are nothing, walked into a World Cup squad and scored 4 goals. He became the first teenager since Pelé to score in a World Cup final. France lifted the trophy. Mbappe was the fastest player at the tournament. 2022, Qatar. He scored 8 goals, the most at the tournament. He scored a hat-trick in the final, the first man to do that in a World Cup final since Jeff Hurst in 1966. France lost on penalties. Mbappe left Qatar with the heaviest heart and the greatest individual performance of any player who had ever finished on the losing side of a final. The Golden Boot. 8 goals and a penalty shootout loss that he carried on his back for 4 years. And now 2026, America. The home of the biggest stages, the loudest crowds, the most dramatic moments. He has arrived with a brace, a national record, a viral Flute celebration, and Wayne Rooney's declaration that nobody alive is fully appreciating what they are witnessing. The Mbappe era is not approaching its peak. It is at its peak, right now, in real time, on the biggest stage the sport has ever built. What comes next? Iraq are next for France, then Norway. Then, if France go through as expected, the knockout rounds begin. Kylian Mbappe needs 2 more goals to equal Ronaldo Nazario's 15. He needs 3 more to break Miroslav Klose's 16, the record that has been untouched for 12 years. He has a minimum of 4 games left, possibly 6 or 7 if France reach the final. And when that 16th goal goes in, when Mbappe raises his arms in whatever stadium, in front of whatever crowd, on whatever night it happens, remember this video. Remember June 16th, 2026. Remember MetLife Stadium. Remember the Flute. Remember the post that Nicolas Jackson hit in the 25th minute that almost changed everything. Remember that on the night Kylian Mbappe became France's greatest goal scorer of all time. None of it was supposed to go this smoothly. It never does. That is exactly what makes it unforgettable.